Hey everybody. So we have Saboor here for part two of the interview. So if you haven't watched part one yet, um, Saboor's interview, I think is going to come at a perfect timing for a lot of you because I've been getting a lot of emails and comments from people who are asking like, is my relationship possible if my wife has divorced me, if I'm under no contact or very little contact, or she has blocked me, whatever it is? Well, Saboor here, when he joined the program, he was divorced, no contact, you were blocked. You were told by your partner, no hope. I've already tried. I'm not looking. Change for someone else. Please stop trying. All the resistance you can imagine, boom, thrown at Sabor. So I guess Sabor, first question is, I guess, how are things like now as a follow-up?
It's honestly really hard for me to put into words. I'm at a place I never could have fucking imagined. I mean, it's so many details. It's a complete 180 of what I thought was possible. I mean, the amount of deep conversations I have with Cass, the amount of great fun that we have on a daily basis, the amount where it feels like we're on a new whole life journey together. Like, I'm still in shock to this day. I'm like, wait, like, this is real? It's amazing. I mean, like you said, like, I think most people watching this, when they see somebody going through divorce, they're like, ah, that's it. It's over. It's fucking done. But here I am living a reality that, like, even for me, I'm like, wait, this is like unheard of. Like, I remember legit when I was looking and looking into your program and I was looking at statistics, so like people getting remarried, it's like, oh, like 2, 3%. And I'm like, okay, so I got a 97% chance of failure. And I'm just like, that's not me. I'm in that category that's like a fucking unicorn. I'm speechless to be honest.
So let's go deeper here because I want people to understand when I said you were divorced and you were getting a lot of resistance, I want people to understand the specific resistance you were getting. So two-part question here, and I'll let you
Yeah.
go a long time here. What was the resistance you were getting? What was she telling you that made you feel like, oh my God, this was hopeless? Because you did feel hopeless in the very beginning. And how did you get past that resistance?
That's a great question. So here's why I thought it was hopeless. Because I honestly did. She filed for divorce. So wait, she told me she wanted divorce back in May of 2022. She filed for it 1 month after. Where I live, divorce happens in 3 months. So I remember when I watched your videos and I saw Paradox of Change, where it's like 6 to 24 months, and I thought, I don't have that time. 3 months, it's over. I can't turn this ship around. Like, it's over. It's done. So for me, I wasn't even filtering like resistance. I was just like, no, this is gonna be my reality. I am
But
getting
that's actually
divorced.
the scariest resistance. It seems like what you're saying is that the resistance you were getting was indifference from your partner. And that's
Yes.
a passive resistance or a stoic resistance where I think that scares a lot of people. And that was what you were getting.
Yeah, she was completely checked out. She was just like, yeah, so where this is great, but it's too late. I'm done. I'm out. I don't care anymore. Go ahead, change for somebody else. Um, it's great that you want to change now, but my mind's already made up. Like, get out, leave. I mean, she did kick me out pretty shortly after, and then she blocked me like a month after she kicked me out. She's just like, I don't want a part of this anymore.
What did she
And
say when she kicked you out? Like, did you have a place? But by the way, guys, this is
oh
the
yeah, this
background you're
I'm back
seeing. This
home.
is yeah, this is your your
I mean, it's
partner's
our
paintings,
apartment.
no? This is
Yeah,
her
this is her
artwork, no?
artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like her eye drawings, a lot of like the humor that she has on here. Right now, I'm in her office and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm literally back home. Like,
So
if I,
when she told you to move out, what did she say? Where did you go? I mean, like she
all
basically
right,
threw you
so
out.
there's a story behind this, and there's a big story behind this. But I remember she more or less just told me in no uncertain words, just get the fuck out. I don't want to see you again. She told me that. So the story behind that was this. I had been digesting your videos and I came to a realization that I wasn't creating emotional safety in the marriage. And I told her that like, yeah, I said it just like this. Yeah, I realized I don't feel emotionally safe in the marriage, and I don't think I've ever felt that way in the marriage. That's all I said. And she took it, and rightfully so, as, oh my God, Saboor, you are blaming me for the demise of this marriage. Get the fuck out. She immediately just went to our garage. She packed up so much shit, and then she was just like, leave. I want you gone in the next 24 hours. I don't care. Like, go to your parents, whatever. So I did. I left for my folks like immediately. I was like a 4 hour drive or whatever. And I was like, I fucked it up. I don't understand how I fucked it up, but I need to change something fast in me. So it was like the biggest thing.
But that's a kind of an interesting point you brought up because sometimes I hear a lot of the resistance that clients get or you were getting. It's really resistance is very interesting because like you were trying to do something nice for your partner,
I
but
was.
she totally twisted and bent whatever you did as nice into something that is not nice. It's like, oh my God, like she just saw the worst in you. But that's the crux of what it means to have destroyed safety, right? If you had destroyed safety, then your partner is always in this position where whatever you do, nice or not, she'll always see like what's up here. No, no, I don't see that. So a lot of people complain, right? It's like I'm trying to save my relationship. I'm trying to do nice things. I'm doing all these things, but whatever I do, she sees the worst in me. She doesn't want it. She in fact it creates even more resistance because again, the crux of it is like the safety. If you haven't created that, everything you do will be twisted and bent.
Correct. And in that instance, I was trying to take ownership of the fact that I destroyed emotional safety. I didn't articulate that well at the very least. But I didn't understand just how broken safety was for her. The many years of confirmation bias that she developed against me because she had only seen me do things a certain way, which was for her that, hey, Saboor has pretty much passed the buck onto me. He doesn't accept responsibility. He always blames me. And once again, now he's doing it once again. She had no other way but to interpret it that way. Her resistance for me, like, I was like, now I'm like, of course she saw it that way.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't realize that. And so I fell into such a major trap of then trying to justify and explain what I said and trying to once again push her emotions down. Like, no, no, you're not right with how you're seeing it. Like, I promise you it's this other way. This is what I mean. This is what I intend. I swear, please don't get me mad, whatever. And she's just going to misinterpret that more and more and more as she did, because that's the only evidence she ever had.
Yeah. Uh, so you fell into what we call the paradox of logic.
Bingo.
When we try to use more logic to justify or explain the misunderstanding when you get resistance, the more you're telling your partner actually you don't understand the source of the misunderstanding. And the fact that you don't understand the fact that you're telling your partner you don't understand the source of the misunderstanding makes her even go even like, "Ugh, forget it."
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was full on paradox of logic, and I've had that like seeped into my system for such a long time where I would do exactly that. I would show her in those moments. I don't understand, Cass, where you're coming from. I don't understand the problems. I'm not somebody you can work with, not somebody you can talk to, or anything like that. If anything, Cass, if you bring a point of view to me, my default is going to be to push it down, to destroy your safety just to increase my own sense of safety.
It's almost like, Cass, I don't really understand you, but you need to understand me, that I wasn't
Yep.
coming from a bad place. It's like more about you again, right? I'm guessing this is why you got blocked.
Yes. Yes, exactly. She was like, I can't trust your words anymore. Stop this logic, stop this justification, stop this bullshit. I'm done, blocked out. Talk to my lawyer, please.
So, and I get this question a lot, right, from people. It's like, Jeff, I'm blocked. What do I do?
Yeah,
Did you ask that
I
question?
had, yeah, that's no, that's a really good question. And I I wrestled with that so many times. Like, how the hell am I going to showcase my changes when I'm divorced, I'm out of state, I'm blocked, she's not going to speak to me for months, if not years. I did think about that. And then I realized that if I really wanted her to see me as different, I needed to be fucking different at a like not just a 10x, but for me it was like I need to be a universe level apart of difference so that if I get even 5 minutes of time with her, that she can see that, wow, I don't know what is different with Saboor, but I'm at least curious to find out. And as I talked about in my last interview, it was, let's see, she blocked me, I think back, it was October 2022 or September 22. Honestly, like, I don't remember the date anymore, but she checked up on me in like March of 2023. And then she's like, hey, you want to like speak for like 15 minutes? And I was like, okay, I don't know why, but all right. And then I remember in that first video call we had together, she was studying every single thing I was saying, every single thing I was doing, every micro expression, everything, down to like a fucking hawk. And she legit told me during the call, she's like, oh, you reacted in this specific way when I said this specific thing. That means you've changed. And I was like, oh my gosh, she really is watching me. I thought I'm being blocked. It's over. And she even told me, and that conversation went from 15 minutes to 3 hours. And now, of course, like I'm back home and life's great. Like I'm super happy. But I remember she even told me, she's like, yeah, I was going to call you like a year after the fact just to check in to see how you were doing.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of goes to a bigger point that I have too, is that I think many times people are so afraid of like, oh no, am I never gonna like be able to talk to my partner? Is she ever gonna notice my changes or anything like that? And then sometimes you can just stew in that shit, as I did for some time. You just stew in it over and over again. But in that time that you're wasting, it could be weeks, could be months, you're missing out on the growth that your partner is looking for in the first fucking place anyway. And
Yeah.
so, and like, I realized at some point that me just stewing over this shit over my head is getting me fucking nowhere. I need to change something. So I thought, let me just fix me, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. So for people who are right now in a position where they're blocked, under no contact, whatever it is, I think number one thing is stop asking the wrong questions. People who are blocked or under no contact, they always ask the question, how do I manufacture contact? But if you are blocked or if you're under no contact, that very question of how do I manufacture contact is exactly why you got blocked in the first place. Because your partner does not want you to manufacture contact, because whatever contact you have is the wrong kind of contact, because you haven't changed really. And like what Saboor said was very crucial, because it reminds me of like, imagine you are like a boxer or whatever, right? Um, the scout comes to a match to watch you box, and you lost the fight and you kind of sucked. And the scout says, no, I'm not gonna recruit you, right? And then you go home and you sulk and you go, oh no, right? And you do that for 3 weeks to a month. One more month, you have another fight. But because you've been sulking for a month, you didn't work on your boxing techniques. Guess what? The same scout comes again. And you're the same. And you sulk even more. The scout comes again 3 months later. And so on and so on. Eventually, the scout's not going to come. It's like, I've said, there's no changes.
Yeah,
That's another
that is,
big issue with people, is like, they spend so much time wallowing in their feelings of like, what to do, what to do, what to do. Well, you just went in and go, okay, fix me, fix me. I need to fix me so that the next time she comes, the scout comes, that scout will see, maybe I'm not perfect yet, but she can see such a drastically different trajectory that it doesn't take a genius to imagine that if this is the trajectory in 3 months, oh, it could be pretty high in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. That's, I think, what you mean when you say changes that pique her curiosity.
yes. Right, exactly. She was always curious about my potential. I even asked her, like, hey, like, why did I remember we've had this conversation now that I'm back home, and I was like, why did you even like marry me in the first place or love me? And she just flat out said, because of where I saw your potential. That's it. That's all she said. I'm like, oh wow, it's exactly what Geoffrey talks about. It's it's exactly what we talk about in the program as well. It's in the same case. If I were to think about it for me, like when I married her. I wasn't just like, oh, Cass is just going to be a static being. I'm like, I'm envisioning a whole life that we're going to build and grow together. And as long as I can see that trajectory with her, then hell yeah, I'm all in. And so conversely, from her to me, if she can see, yeah, Saboor is growing and he's constantly working on himself and he's constantly improving the ways that he acts more like a performer, for example. I'm about to go like program term heavy, but more or less, the more she can see my trajectory getting steeper and steeper, the more she is going to feel safer with me. The more she's like, yeah, I can go through all of this all over again with Saboor because I can see that those dreams that I had with him a decade ago, they are going to be realized. Maybe not today, but sometime in the future. I believe in that.
And another mistake, I think this brings me to another mistake that people make when they're blocked is they focus so much on that paradox of logic because they try to prove to their partner that they're the perfect person. So let's say their partner is saying like, "Hey, you make me very unhappy." What you want to say is basically like, "Oh no, it's not me that's flawed. It's your interpretation of what I did that's flawed. So let me explain to you how I'm actually better than you think, and I actually have better intentions than you think, and how you misunderstood me completely." My partner said something very interesting to me in our journey too, which is she said, Jeff, if you're trying to tell me right now that my unhappiness is me interpreting you wrong, and that this right here, the thing I see about you right now, and you want to convince me that who you are right now is good enough already, you just told me that this is the best that it can ever be. And if I want to stay with you, then I need to accept and lower my standards to be okay with this imperfection. So a lot of people try to justify so much, and we have a client right now, one client. We both know who it is. We just keeps trying to justify why they are already good enough. And whenever people give them feedback or give them like tough love, they go all crazy. That behavior is going to tell your partner this is the guy's full potential. He cannot get better because he doesn't even understand that he needs to get better. He doesn't even understand his flaws. So why should your partner stay? So the reason why you got blocked in the first place is not because of the problems, but because you are subtly showing your partner that you have low potential.
Correct. And I think also, it's just to add on to that, I think one mistake that I know I made, and I think sometimes people can make, is that they don't really understand just how serious not only the problems are, but the way that they are handling them, their process for handling them. And like, I'll just take my case, for example, since I've really started, I really understand a lot more about Cass these days. And when I really honestly think back about all the pain, all the suffering that I put her through, me, like, it's actually a little hard to talk about, but she lived such a painful reality that I dismissed time and time again. It's it's so fucking painful for me now. Like, it's painful to have that understanding. Forgive me, I'm not wording the best, but
Mm.
being in her shoes, I now understand the gravitas of just how much she suffered and how much I caused, whether it's a misunderstanding or like whatever. Like, the reality is she suffered through that. And if she couldn't work through me with that, there's literally no hope, period. And I've even told her, I'm like, Cass, like, I asked her, like, why did you stay with me for so long, given how hard, like, how much pain you suffered during our relationship? Like, if it were me, like, I would have fucking left sooner. And, come and talk to her. If she kind of just told me, she's like, I believed in that dream that much. I wanted you to succeed, but for over 2 years prior to the divorce, she'd give me a chance. And as her love was starting to run out for me, she was hoping that maybe this last ditch effort of Saboor finally understanding and working with me would change, but it never did. And she suffered a lot. And so I say this because I don't, for anybody watching this, and if you're feeling like you're a victim here, don't underestimate just how much fucking pain your partners have been through. When they are leaving you, when they are making a choice to go through divorce or see somebody else or whatever, they're not doing this happily. The amount of pain that I've come to understand that Cass has suffered is so immense that the way I honestly see the way that I treated her, whether you call it good intentions or whatever, it doesn't matter. The reality is she suffered pain, and I wasn't there for her as her husband. So She has every right to leave.
Yeah. So the pain that we're talking about, just to make sure people are clear here, is the pain of the catch-22. So
Yes.
the problems, the painful problems are never really about the problems itself, whether it's like financial concerns, whatever concerns, right? It's that whenever I'm unhappy about something in the relationship, if I share it with you, I will get told that I'm wrong, that I need to change my mind about it. I feel wrong about it. Nothing is going to change in Saboor, for example, when I tell Saboor that something is wrong. So I lose if I share. If I don't share, obviously nothing happens, so I lose. It's almost like imagine you're working for a company, you're unhappy, and you tell your boss, hey, I think you need to change some things about the company here. Like, to be honest, like, this is not good. People are miserable. And your boss says, well, I think you're seeing it wrong. What would you do? Well, I can't talk to this person because like this person obviously doesn't want to be aware of the problems. Or whenever I talk to this person about the problems, they villainize me. If I don't talk about it, nothing will change. I'll be miserable forever. So I need to leave. And sometimes the pain gets so strong, like Sabor said, that I think an example that people often give is because usually in a traditional marriage, right, the guy is the breadwinner, and when the woman divorces, um, the guy will say, "Well, it sucks for her. Like she sucks because like now I need to give her half my money. So obviously she wants to divorce me because she wants my money." Let's reverse this for a bit, okay? Let's imagine that you are in a relationship where the other person is the breadwinner. This person, because they're the breadwinner, they control everything, your life. Because this person is the breadwinner, you dedicate your life for this person, to serve this person. And you haven't really built skills that allow you to become your own breadwinner in a way, because you've spent your whole life serving this person. Do you actually want to divorce? Like, think about how painful divorce would be. And people have this narrative somehow. They're like, well, the woman get the better end of the deal. Dude, I guarantee you, if you're in that position where you are the dependent like that, you will do everything you can before divorce. Because you stand to lose everything when you divorce someone you're dependent on.
Absolutely. And I talked to Cass about this too, and she basically more or less she's corroborated what you said. And I asked her, like, during the divorce, like you stood to lose so much, like your reputation as a woman, you're gonna be a divorced woman now.
And she's
Like,
leaving at a time in her life where she's biologically at her prime.
yep.
Because for women, like after 30, because we're trying to have babies now, after 30, it's different, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like as men age, like, stereotypically speaking, men's value in the dating market doesn't really go down. But for a woman, they have that biological clock. And even in terms of like finances and whatever, like all the specific divorce details about like who gets what and so on and so forth, she stood to lose a lot. In fact, and she told me, she's like, yeah, losing all of that was actually preferable compared to having you in the house for another minute. And I was like, God damn, that was that shit for her. Holy shit. And it brings me back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about paradoxical logic and me not understanding the problems because I was so convinced that like, no, 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 me being here will be to your benefit when she was already like, no, 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 having you around is making me more miserable than going through all this suffering that I expect from society, from my
yeah,
family, from my friends, from like my whole life dreams, everything. Just like that is better than you. And I'm like, oh shit.
yeah. And so back to the topic of like, if you're blocked and no contact, right? This is a perfect opportunity for you to really reflect and humbly reflect on what your partner is truly trying to tell you. If you're still questioning, how do I manufacture contact? You missed the whole fucking point.
Yeah.
Your question should be, what made this person who initially said, yes, I want to, of all the people in the world, I want to pick this person. I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. A year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, to be like, I do not mind never seeing, hearing, or knowing this person again. I could die tomorrow and have this person be on the other side of the universe, and I'm okay with this. What brought, what did I do that brought this person to risk so much pain, to risk so much loss, to go from up here to all the way down here? What did I do? And like Saboor said, often the things you do are paradoxes. You often do not know that the things you're doing wrong are wrong. And often you create a space where the things you're doing wrong, you may never know. And I gave this example in a group, right? There was a time when I was so toxic that everyone was so afraid to give me feedback. And because no one was giving me feedback, I thought I was hot shit. But no one giving me feedback was not because I was hot shit, it was because I was such bad shit that no one dared to give me feedback. And often when you destroy safety, that is the paradox that you fall into, where you always think you're hot shit, but actually you're getting further and further away from who you are in reality. That's a very dangerous place to be.
I completely agree. And the irony for me is, I would say that I was so lost and confused about what was happening, and that frustrated the shit out of Cass. She's just like, Sabur, I've told you this thousands of times. And then the one moment she doesn't tell me things, like you would say, I'd be like, why isn't she telling me anything? And so it's just like this big circular loop where it's just like, oh, I can't even work with Sabur at all.
Well, let's talk about that, right? You mentioned, I remember you mentioning after you reconciled with Cass that like, because I always told you in the program, your partner's always watching. Even though she
Yeah.
doesn't say she's watching, she might not look like she's watching, she might have blocked you, whatever, she's watching. At the end, you realized I was right. She was watching. What did she tell you?
Well, in regards to like watching me, she kind of more or less just said like, of course I was watching Saboor. Like, you're the one who's known me for over a decade of my life. You were there for me in some moments that like are part of the reason why I fell in love with you in the first place. Of course I was gonna watch you, but I could never tell you because I didn't know whether this was real or not, whether you
Yeah.
being different was real or not.
So the way I put it for people too is like, if because I get this a lot, right? I get emails from people saying like, I don't know when I'm gonna get to speak to her again. Hold up, right? Let's reverse roles here. If you, let's say, like, how long have you been together? 10 years, whatever it is, right? If you, let's say, you decide to leave a person, are you saying that you can shut off your brain completely on in one day overnight and go like, this person I've obsessed about, I've thought about, I've spent my whole 10 years with, I'm just not going to think about him ever again. I'm not going to watch him ever again. Can you do that? No, I can't. Then your partner can do that too. Of course she's watching. Of course she's watching. The moment when you can perform again, you can show your changes, will they be there? But when it comes, have you actually changed in massive ways, in the right ways, or change in your own ways? Depends. And some people, they get these opportunities, they don't even know the opportunities exist. We're there because you're so blinded by their own victim mindset, etc. Right? And your chance came when your partner kind of called you and
Yeah, there's that, of course, just she never told me like how, like she just like reached out to me. She's like, hey, like you want to talk for like 5 minutes? I'm like, what? Where did this come from? But yeah, but like you were saying, Jeffrey, if I hadn't changed massively, then I would have fucked that opportunity over. I should have been like, yeah, this was a waste of time. Bye. And that's it. That could have been it. So I remember when she had even posited like, hey, you want to speak for like 15 minutes at the end of the month? I was like, I was like, okay, I need to like grow even more massively. So like with this performance coming up, so to speak. But it's that the bigger issue, I think, for those who are, say, worrying about like being blocked is like, again, you just spend your time wasting on stressing and asking those types of questions instead of changing and growing massively. Like, if you just don't change, it's not gonna fucking matter what you do. You have to grow in the correct ways. You have to grow in the right ways. And so many people, and I guess I want to bring up another point is just so many people are so fucking quick to give you advice on what to do, what not to do sometimes. And the truth is, they don't really have a clue about what you need in order to, like, more or less reconcile for you to create the relationship of your dreams. Because I got a lot of advice freshly throughout the divorce process, to be honest, about like, yeah, fuck her, whatever. If she's leaving you, then go ahead and act all tough and whatever. She's the one discarding the relationship and so on and so forth. You know, I had many people who would say, like, why isn't she doing the work? So where it looks like you're now acknowledging you screwed up and you're trying to change, shouldn't she do the work too? And I gotta be honest, when I think about that type of question, it kind of fucking pisses me off because that type of question is what I've come to realize one of the most victim things imaginable. Like we talk about it, equal blame illusion. And it's one of the biggest things that can destroy safety in just like a fucking heartbeat. Because I came to realize this. For Cass to go from, hey, I have a future with you, I'm so excited to see you every day, to I don't even want to deal with you ever again. I'd rather go through pain and suffering than deal with you 1 second. To go from such a high to such a low, she had to give me millions of chances for that to happen. She's already been doing the work millions and millions and millions of times. She has tried anything and everything that she can fucking think of in order to save the relationship. But I wasn't doing my fucking part, right? She did everything she could as a wife should, but I as a husband was inadequate. And what pains me for this as well is, as I kind of came to realize, the reality is by me asking that question, once again, I was breaking her spirit. I was making her feel so fucking inadequate. I was making her feel like a failure. I was basically projecting onto her the same bullshit that I dealt with as a kid growing the fuck up, where I felt those exact same things, where I ultimately felt I didn't matter. I was insignificant. I was worthless. And so for me, since I know the deep pains of what it's like to feel abandoned growing up, me putting that onto her, even once, is in fucking excusable. But what's happening for her is that she dealt with that millions of times. So the audacity for me to say, hey, why don't you do the work once again? It's like, bro, are you fucking kidding me? Like, take a look at yourself in the mirror, more or less.
Yeah. It reminds me of like that drowning man parable that we often give, right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, for people who don't know this, it's like a guy is drowning and a ship one comes by and it goes like, hey, come on, jump on. And he goes, no, God will save me, right? So the ship one goes away. He's still drowning. Ship number two comes. No, God will save me. Ship number two goes away. Number three comes. No, stop. God will save me. And then he dies. He drowns. And he goes to heaven and he says, God, how come you didn't save me? I sent you 3 fucking ships. What the fuck do you want? Right? So often, sometimes, like when your partner's trying, your partner often tries in ways that you don't realize. It's not like she'll announce it going like, this is me trying, right? It's gonna come in random moments sometimes when she's trying. And sometimes like we don't even see that help is help. But that's like what you did, right? What people do is like someone going to God in that example and going like, well, okay, God, save me one more time then. And then God saves you one more time and you go, oh, I missed it again. Okay, could you save me one more time then? I'll catch it again. Oh, I missed it again. After a while, if you were God in that example, you'd be like, what the fuck, dude? What more do you want? Like, you keep blaming me for not helping you, but you missed the 20 times I tried to help you, and now you want to help me. You want me to help you one more time, and you don't want to help yourself? Are you kidding me right now?
Bingo. You said it right there. In the meantime, while I'm entertaining, why isn't she doing anything? Why isn't she doing anything? I'm forgetting the fucking part about
I'm
like,
not
Saboor,
doing anything.
why don't I do something? Let me try something different instead of like sitting on my ass waiting for her to make the magical perfect thing for me before I even take a step. It's like, yo, if she's walking to you and if she's trying, go the fuck run to her. And I didn't do that. So it would have just been appalling to have even asked her, hey, I know you've ran to me and sprinted towards me 100,000 times and it didn't work for me, but could you do it just one more time, please? Oh, you didn't do it right, the perfect way that I did it. Let me tell you why you suck. Like,
This
how is
kind of
that supposed to
reminds
build
me
any
of
safety?
it reminds me of this client that we have
Yeah,
every year. So this client has been in the group for a while. Every 6 months or so, he would come up with a post and says, "I'm struggling. Life sucks so bad. I'm trying so hard, but life sucks so bad." And then, the coaches would come in later, but like you would have a bunch of other members coming in there and going like, "Oh, you're doing it wrong. This is why. This is why. This is why. This is why." And he goes like, "Man, all this feedback is overwhelming me. All this tough love you guys are giving me is not productive to me. I don't know what to do with it." And he goes like throws a tantrum and attacks everyone. And it's like, dude, you've been looking for help for 2 years. People have been trying to help you. Life has been trying to help you for 2 years. But every time life tries to help you, you shit on them. And then after you shit on them, you go, why isn't anyone helping me? Because every time someone tries to help you, because it doesn't come in the exact way you want, which by definition, if the help comes in the exact way you want, that's not the help you need. Right? That's why. So it's the same thing. Like, so for people who are blocked, whatever it is, you often say in your mind, right? It's like, oh, it comes so out of the blue. How come she never gave me a chance? She blocked me. Dude, if you really think about it, she gave you a fuck ton of chances. And that you being blocked was the moment where she said, no more fucking chances. I'm done. For someone to be
yeah,
done giving you chances, by definition, they need to have given you chances in the first place.
yeah. I mean, Cass didn't. It wasn't like a one and done thing where Cass was just like, "Oh hi, I know you," and then "Oh hi, I blocked you." No, it was just like, "Saboor, you've fallen for paradox of logic like 500 million fucking times. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. This is just like my Hail Mary play that you like fucking get it and understand. Just stop doing what you're doing." Because she did try to like be nice. She would sometimes be harsher, but she never liked doing it. And she, in the meantime, she's just having to operate from the space where she's basically fucking parenting me. It's like, Saboor, you're a 30-plus-year-old man. Can you just act like a man and a husband should? Like, come on. Like, it's not my job to teach you how to like function on a
Yeah.
basic level, you know?
Yeah. So anyway, so like your story was um
Yeah.
eventually you had that phone call. She saw enough changes to where she was curious.
Yeah.
But your journey didn't end there because like it wasn't like, oh wow, Sabor did great in this one conversation. Let me come back to Sabor. We often talk about what we call the paradox of logic, the paradox of change, where as you change, as people see that you've changed, they're going to resist you more. They're going to be very suspicious of it because they've been burned so many times in the past. Now they're going, okay, I see the same thing again, the same start again. Him saying some of the same things in the past where he's promised some changes, he's promised he's better, he says it's better. But of course, like it'd be dumb for your partner to go one more time, like, okay, let me be super gullible. He's fooled me 50 times, but 51st time must be different. Of course, it's just not gonna say that. What was the resistance you got when you first got to talking again? Uh, what was the resistance you got from your partner?
One of the most common things she would say is, I don't love you. I'm never going to fall in love with you.
So she's pretty much like shut off her emotions towards you. Basically, like
Yeah.
she's basically saying, like, I don't even want to see the good sides because I need to protect myself here, kind of.
Yeah. She would say very, very frequently, like, I don't love you. I can never love you again. Like, it's over. Like, it's great what you're doing, and like it's nice that we interact with one another one again and we're more friends, but I don't love you. I can never love you. And I remember at first, admittedly, that like I was like, that kind of affected me. But once again, it went back to what we talked about earlier, which is I didn't really understand her perspective much more.
Mhm.
I didn't understand where she was coming from. I didn't really fully understand why she would say such a thing for a very long time. And then once I did, once I did understand, like, oh yeah, like it eventually kicked me. I'm like, well, no fucking shit, she doesn't feel that way because think of all the history we've had where I've destroyed the pillars many, many times, or broken safety, I've played victim and super tethered. And if that's how she sees me to this day, then of course she's gonna resist the fuck out of that. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm not that person anymore.
So we talked about this before, which is like when your partner tells you how unhappy she is, the last thing you should do is to basically justify yourself and explain why, hey, you misunderstood. Things were actually better than it is. The best answer at that point is actually to say, you know what, let me step back and listen and figure out what my problems are, what merit there is to it. Because like if you say it like that, then it shows your partner here that, hey, at least he's trying to be aware of the problems. And if he at least wants to be aware, that means that he wants to fix the problems. And if he wants to fix the problems, that means that we can go somewhere. We may not be perfect today, but at least the trajectory, the process is there. Same thing when so when you're getting blocked, you need to that's the time you need to look within, right? Because that's life telling you, dude, fucking look within. If you don't get this fucking hint, I don't know what you will get. But then after you go through that, you will go through resistance, same exact thing. When you go through resistance, the initial instinct is to crumble, to go, oh, she told me she will never change her feelings. Okay, then I'll stop trying. Not quite yet, right? Because when I talk to my partner, for example, and I don't know when this podcast is launching, by the way, it's been so freaking busy with like trying to have a baby and everything like that. But like in that episode, she tells about like why she eventually chose me again and chose to trust me again. And she told me she knew things were real when she told me like things were hopeless. I will never change your mind. I will never change my mind. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. Please don't try anymore. I will never love you again. But Jeff still continued with his changes in the right ways because that tells me that he's doing this for him. This is him. Unconditional change, not change that is conditional. The conditional change that I was burned by many times because as soon as I came back to you, you became complacent and you didn't enjoy your changes, so went back. And that's what Saboor is saying here. Saboor, sorry, I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but you're right. And that brings me to the point about like, hey, like, how did you save your whole relationship after divorce? Why did you keep pressing on even though divorce and so on and so forth? And it's exactly what you said, Jeffrey. It's because I realized I developed my own internal reasons, my own intrinsic motivation to growing myself, to working on myself, that it is unconditional. It doesn't matter what happens in my life, period. I will always do that because I see great value for that anyway. And I'd even asked Cass the other day, just straight up, I'm like, why did you start believing in me? She's like, I saw you were doing it for yourself. And more or less, she was just telling me, Saboor, because you've untethered. That's the big thing. Your motivation for working on yourself isn't to try to get me back. She's like, yeah, I've known that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I could see that. I'm like, I've already tested you millions of times
Yeah.
in situations that are impossible to fake. You're untethered. That's
And
all
that
there is.
test is crucial, like you said, because like the resistance is a test. Because any Joe Blow can come and say, I'm changing for me.
Yeah.
Okay. If you say that, let's fucking see. And we get and you have taken a lot of calls with prospects before, and you've seen this
Yeah.
before where people will say anything to get their foot in the door to play the game. They'll say like, I'll do anything, I'll do anything, I'll do anything to get into this program, I'll do anything to get my wife back, I'll do anything. Okay, you sure? The next day, their wife tests them and says, uh, I don't want you to try to save this relationship anymore. If you try to change yourself, I will leave you right now. So day one, they were like, I'll do anything to get her back. I'll do anything to change. They get a bit of resistance. They go, oh, never mind then. What did you just tell your wife? Anything, but with a lot of conditions.
Yeah.
So not really anything.
So it's not genuine at that point. And that reminds me, like, I remember Cass just out of the blue. She was just like, Saboor, I know you joined this program and I doubted it for so long and so on and so forth, but like you really stuck through with it, even through the divorce. And she flat out told me, she's like, Saboor, you got balls. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And she admired that. She even told me, Saboor, you seem really proud of your growth. Like you really seem to like it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't even aware of that at the time, but she noticed. She noticed that it was real because she had already tested this. And so, that divorce, ironically, was one of the best moments for me because it really allowed me to become the person I am today. And I'm super fucking grateful to her, to be honest, because I told her, like, hey, Cass, like, the reason I'm much more successful in life now is honestly because of you, straight up. So, it's nice to just be able to talk about like divorce anytime. It's so super casual. But anyway, back onto the point. She is always watching to see like, are these changes that Saboor is making are things I can believe in? And so she tests, she would test me in moments where impossible to fake, when I would be like super tired, when I've had, say, a stressful day, or anything like that. She's gonna see like, all right, now when Saboor is at his lowest element, how is he going to be? Is he going to be coming from an untethered space? Is this legit or is this all for show? So it kind of goes back to what we say about, it's not the 99 things you do right, it's that one thing you do wrong when it's super fucking hard. It's anybody can perform really well when shit is easy, but it's when things are really hard that it really counts.
Yeah. Give you an example of this, so I've recently dabbled into investing, right? And as an investor, you go through high highs and high and low lows sometimes, right? And in the beginning of my investing journey, I used to get very emotional. My emotions would rock back and forth with my investments. And sometimes, the good parts of my investing periods can be like 3 months to 6 months, can be like really good moments, and then like 3 months of lows, right? In the 6 months when things are good, my partner would see like Jeff is actually much more calm, much more untethered. He's doing very well. But she doesn't trust at that point that I'm actually good. Because she can see in her mind, right? No, I mean the signals are good. I mean, he has no reason to crumble. But then during the low lows, she will watch, is he okay then? Because if he's okay then, and then the low lows, like lowest of lows, where like any normal person would panic and he doesn't panic, that's the one I trust, right?
Yeah,
Because that's the one he cannot fake. And your partner's doing the same thing too. Like, of like 100 things you do, she's gonna look at the one thing you do that cannot be faked, and that's what will tell her everything. You can do 99 right things, but if that has ulterior reasons for why you could do something right, you can fake that. She won't look at that. And it's not her being an asshole. You do the same. Everyone does the same. That's what any smart person would
absolutely.
do.
Yeah. And I won't go into too much detail about these events because they're like, I'll just tell you guys, like some of the stuff is just a little too personal for me to talk about publicly. But there were certainly some events where it's like I remember there was a moment where I was just like broke as fuck and I was tired and sleepless and shitless and she needed help. And that's what I'm not getting into detail about the help part, but she got to see like when Saboor is his absolute weakest, how does he interact with me? Absolute weakest, impossible to fake. Where I'm just, then she was like, yeah, like she even told me, she said, yeah, that's when I knew you were genuine. I knew your changes were legit, at least in tough moments. And then she wanted to see, of course, as she would come closer, what is it like when I'm back with Saboor now? What is it like day to day and things like that? And so she gets then evidence of both cases, and she's like, yeah, this is legit.
So between me and you, right? I was curious about this too.
Yeah,
Not between me and you. Now the whole world will know.
yeah.
But there was a point when Cass wanted to talk to me about her art.
Yeah.
I can sense that the point of that conversation wasn't really about her art. I think she really wanted to see and test me in the program.
Oh yeah.
True?
Yeah. Yeah. She even talked to me about it. She even said that just like, so don't tell Jeff, but like I'm trying to see if he's being an asshole. I was just like, okay. I'm
And
like, I'm
because
sure
like
Jeff
she
doesn't
was
tell.
giving me really tough questions. She was like at some points throwing shade at the program a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I know what you're doing. I'm not falling for that.
Yeah. But she didn't distrust the program because of you. She distrusted it because of me and what she would
Yeah.
expect me to get into the program into. And so nowadays, like, now that like I get to work with you, she's just like we talk about all sorts of things relate to the job. And she's on your side. She's like, yeah, like this program seems amazing, and like maybe I should join it too. She's even talked about it. And I'm like,
But that's
there
a
might be a bit of a
crucial,
conflict of interest.
that's
Go
a
on.
really important distinction or a detour I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make
Go
about,
for it.
because like sometimes you see some people who want to join this program, but then their wife says, no, if you join the program, I will divorce you, stuff like that. And something for people to think about, right? It's like the if your wife really knew what the program is and she really knew what the stories are like and what we teach, in what world would she say no? The reason why she would say no is because she doesn't understand or trust that you can take this program and use it correctly. We have a few clients, for example, very few, who have used the program, and instead of using it to change deeply and genuinely internally, they just use it to basically get more tactics, get more quick fixes, get more scripts. And if you're gonna use that, like, if your wife is like really resistant to you joining a program, not even mine, whatever, a program that is good, it's not the program, it's you. She doesn't trust you. And so the decision you make shouldn't be about, oh, then I won't take any programs then. Because then how will you change? How will you grow?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're in a situation where you need help, go get the help first and foremost.
Go get that
But
help and
right.
then show your wife how wrong she was, right?
Yeah.
Because like to be honest, like you could try reading books, you could try going to therapy, you could try going to take a program, you could try doing the self-help route. She won't approve anything you do because she doesn't trust you, your intentions, the way you go about it, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's you hit it spot on. I have nothing else to add.
And what's funny is like those people will always say, right? I'll do anything, I'll do anything, I'll do anything. Oh, but when my wife told me if I take this program, she's gonna divorce me. So you're so you are about. So here's what you're saying. The reason why your partner cannot trust you is because she doesn't trust you, doesn't trust you as a person. And so you are about to destroy more trust by going against what you just promised her a few days ago. Makes sense, bro. Like that was a
oh
test and
man.
you fucking
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And that it brings me to a whole other point actually about like why I chose your program in the first place, even when I was having doubts
Yeah.
about
Okay.
you.
What was your
Yeah.
doubts? What was your doubts? What were
So
your
as I
doubts?
talked about in the last interview, I thought like you were a scam, you're a salesman, that you were providing like dishonest tactics, you're using me for my money or whatever, and so on and so forth, right? Um, and I talked about that, and like you being a hard ass or whatever, and I had all of that, but I still decided to go through with your program. And the reason behind that is kind of what you've already alluded to, which is just that the principles of your program are fucking flawless. Like they just, I don't know how else to put it, to be honest. So, but that's the thing. It's well, hey, you did a great job. I'm so glad to be a part of it too. So the thing is, I like regardless of whatever I thought about you, regardless of what I thought about any of the coaches, the face of the coaches, it ultimately didn't matter compared to what were the fundamental raw ideas, the principles, the systems of the program. Were those perfect? To me, I'm like, yeah, I don't see anything fucking wrong with anything that is being taught here whatsoever. It is exactly the way that ideally I'd want to be in a relationship anyway, what I think would be healthy for a relationship anyway. So whatever, who gives a shit about whatever doubts I have with the coaches? The system is what I live for, what I breathe for, so to speak. And that's what drew me to your program anyway. Because out of everyone else that I saw, people on the internet, I'm not gonna like name any competitors or whatever, but I saw like, yeah, I feel like this system that is being prescribed from this program is the fucking way to go. No one talks about it in as much depth. No one talks about it as much complexity. The standards that I get to see from people, the way that people discuss in the other testimonials, they talk about this, and I'm just like, this is some real serious shit. This is what I want. This isn't some surface level, like, oh, hey, watch a 5-10 minute video, learn like a couple of one-liners, and you say to your wife, or like write letters or whatever, or anything like that. I'm like, no, this is like real substantive change. Theirs is impossible to fake. And that's the type of real genuine change I want for me and what I want for a relationship anyway. So whoever's behind, whoever is driving the ship, so to speak, is largely irrelevant. The ship itself is fucking solid. So I'm getting on board. Was
Okay.
basically my mentality.
I have beef I want to rant about.
Go for it.
People always tell me I'm a marketing dude who has a program. Okay. Let's fucking look at facts here. Look at my website. It looks like shit. I'm so embarrassed. Sometimes, like, when my friends ask me, like, what do you do, Jeff? Or like, when people ask me, what do you do? And I tell them, like, really, oh, I help people with their marriages. What's your website? Relationship Mastered. And they look at the website. I die inside. I'm like, oh my God, it looks so fucking ugly right now. Right? It doesn't look presentable. And people call me a marketing dude. You work with a company. When do I focus on fucking marketing? The only thing I market is I pump out videos that are in depth, that try to help people. I pump out testimonials, yes, showing the results. But that's not marketing. That's just me showing you it works. If that's marketing, I don't know what the fuck not marketing is.
Yeah.
Like,
And go on.
okay, so secondly, okay, like, how come, like, we have a quota of people that we enroll every month. Like, me trying to sell people is not gonna get me any more money. It's not gonna get us any more money. It's fixed. The money's fixed. I don't get what people think like we get out of this. Thirdly, right? Think about all the possible reviews you can have in business. Yelp reviews, Google reviews. Like someone was asking the other day, how come you don't have any third parties reviewing your program? Okay, let's think about this for a second. Who are third parties? Let's say New York Times, some guy in New York Times or whatever it is, some blogger, right? Is that blogger struggling with his relationship? Yes or no? No. He's a blogger. So if I enroll a blogger into my program, is he really the best source of a person to talk about the program? Fuck no. Second of all, do you know how easy it is for me to pay for third-party reviews? I get 5 emails a day from people asking, hey, we can give you third-party reviews that show up on Google. I've said no to every single one of those. Do you know what's impossible to fake? Long-form interviews with actual people who can talk about program principles in a deep way for 2 fucking hours. Nobody in the fucking industry is doing that shit. You know why? Because they cannot. We get so many people from other programs coming into our program because those other programs have fucking shiny marketing. They get the initial sale. People see that. They say, that sucks. Let me go to this program. And they get the results. But I guarantee you, if you join any other programs, you will never see the words, I joined Jeff's program and now I joined this program and this program is working ever once. Never. Why? Because I know this, because I have many clients who are still in the other communities. They've never fucking seen it. Rant over.
Oh, but you make a great point, because there's so many things I could say about that. It's because, I think when I looked across the web, I lumped you in with basically everyone else that I saw. So I would see people, I would see other channels, and there's other people that kind of do this now. I see them and I realize, yeah, this is the impression I had of Geoffrey, that he is a sleazy salesman. He is over promising. This is all just like just trying to take my money type of shit and just kind of make me a sucker, so to speak. And when I look at all these other channels and I'm like, I see, oh, this is why, because they do focus on tactics. They do go for shortcut messages. They do all these stereotypical things that I fucking hate about business and sales in general. But here, now that like I'm part of the company, I'm just like, wait, everything we do is completely fucking honest. I'm like, wow, this is, if anything, this is what sales should be about. This is what marketing should be about, which is like, hey, we have a great, amazing product for you guys. Enjoy it. Take it. I mean, it's such a world of difference and it's so fucking refreshing. And my only regret in the entire time I've been in the program, even though like now that I'm on the other side of things are a little different since I'm operating from that place of honesty. So I'm just like, Saboor, man, this was the unicorn of all unicorns. You should have just like completely surrendered to it like much, much sooner. That's my honest only regret, is not trusting the program sooner and not differentiating it from everybody else out there on the market. Because, and I'll say one more thing too. My doubt for this program was very, very strong coming in. The shit, even just like the other day, I remember like Cass, she sees a therapist and whatnot. And then she's like, yeah, so we're not even my therapist who has 30 plus years of experience, who's like highly regarded, understands me as well as you do. I'm like, okay.
What a great compliment.
And I was like, damn. And like this guy, like I have huge respect for this therapist as well. Like degrees up the wazoo, PhDs, you name it, like seriously respected. And I'm like, we're still 10x that. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
And so that's so refreshing to be kind of a part of this. I almost wanted to say like movement altogether, because
It
we
is a
get to do
movement. It
it
is a
is
movement.
like, I remember you had asked me about this like last week. Me coming to work here is like a no fucking brainer. Let me just tell you what my experience is like, just flat out. So just for some context, I used to work at counseling centers. Never dabbled in like therapy myself, but I wanted to be a therapist. And every therapist's dream, more or less, and my dream certainly for a time, was to make a massive fucking generational impact on people's lives. But the reality is, you don't get paid well, and you're kind of it's all right. But the amount of impact that you can have feels very little. The amount that impact I have here is fucking generational. I cannot, it is what I would have, it exceeds my dreams. All right. Not only that, working with you is an absolute fucking pleasure. I get to work wherever I want. I get to grow not only for myself with my relationship, but here on the job as well. I get to help, like, it is impossible for me to say, yeah, this is amazing here. This is amazing here. I get to do this. I get to work on my own terms. Right now, like, I'm at home. I can work at home. I don't have to go to the office. I don't have to worry about this shit. We can just be fucking real with each other. And then on top of that, I get paid really well. Like, are you kidding me? I get to, if we go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I get everything established. I get self-actualization. Dude, that's the shit people are dreaming of having. And I get to have that here. And on top of that, when I'm trying to help other people, it's through pure honesty. I'm like, oh, come on. This is the dream of dreams. I've
Yeah.
never given that shit up.
This is okay. So for those of you who know Sabor, okay. So first of all, I just want to get this out there. Sabor's not saying all these nice things about the program because he works for the company. It's actually the other way around. Okay. It's
Yeah.
because he already thought this stuff about the program that I hired him. Let's be frank here. Okay. There are people lining out the door to work for this company. Many of our
Yes.
clients have reached out to us saying like, put me on the fucking list. I want to work for this company. I want to make the change because of how much change this program has got me. I want to work for this company. And of all those applications, Sabor was picked. So it's not that Sabor worked for the company. That's why he's promoting it. No, he already promoted it before he worked for the company. That's why I hired him. Right. So let's get that clear. Okay. This means a lot to me because I know you. I know you would not overpromise a single centimeter.
No, if
Okay.
anything, that's been more my issue. But right, I have been such a doubter. Like I blame the program for such a fucking long time, such a massive sense of distrust over anything and everything that you would say. I would twist and bend things so much. So now, like here at the other side of things, I'm just like, wow, I was such a fucking idiot. And it's such a relief because I mean, it's really difficult for me to put into words just how much impact not only this program has had upon me, but upon my relationship, many things with Cass that I'm not going to talk about too much in depth, but it's the main takeaway is I got to do things for Cass in such an unbelievable level, in such an impossible to fake scenario that it made me a true believer in the program, in all honesty. I there like the amount of loyalty I've developed as a result from being able to enact that type of change that honestly fucking terrified me. It could have gone so poorly. Um, nah, man, it made me a believer. That's all I can say. And so I'm just so fucking glad to be here. And
But it's so easy. Like what the thing that really is a stab in the heart for me, right? Are people who haven't actually been in the program giving reviews about the fucking program. Like you never even tried it. Like I
I
don't
mean,
get it.
right. And that's the sad part too, because if you just take a look at what the program is about, just on a pure fundamental level, ignore the whole like, oh, like we're people potentially selling or whatever. Like, who gives a shit about that? Let's just think about the 5 pillars, all right? We have emotional safety. So you're telling me that if you and your partner can talk and express anything and everything to each other, so that's emotional safety. Then psychological safety. She can trust and listen to you, and you can do that for each other no matter what, the two of you respect the absolute shit out of each other, mutual admiration, goal alignment, where the two of you can basically walk a fucking life together. And then finally, sexual passion, where you can have literally the most fulfilling sex possible compared to anybody else. All right. You have all 5 of those. Are you telling me if you can do that at a level that no one can possibly comprehend? Are you seriously saying that you're not going to have the relationship of your dreams, that your partner wouldn't want to come back to you? Like, just that alone. That's
But
alone.
but I mean like and we'll say this one last thing because we're staying on too long on this topic, but like
Yeah.
I just want to rant about like I get angry, not because I'm losing my bulletproof vest, but like I get angry when people do not trust us because like I'm like also saying like what more do you fucking want?
Yeah.
Like do you know how hard it is for me to reach out to someone and go, can you please air and do a 2 hour interview of how much you fucked up in your relationship? The interview that your job, your employers, your employees, your coworkers, your parents, your spouse, your kids are gonna see. Can you do that, please? Do you know how many fucking no's I get for every yes to an interview? So the people we interview doesn't even cover smidgen of the success stories we get in the program, first and foremost. Okay. Second of all, there's a reason again why no one in the industry can do this. We do this every 2 weeks, nonstop. No one, no one does this. Look for it. No one does because it's so fucking hard to get people results of this magnitude. Third of all, right? Look at the testimonials we get. We get people like we have the least shiny marketing. So by definition, we are the last, like we are the company that people find fucking last. People usually find us when they find other coaches first, and then after they find other coaches, they look at the program, they look at whatever, and they see Geoffrey Setiawan. Who the fuck is this guy? It's only when they see that name, then they sign up for my program. My program is always the second resort, third resort, fourth resort, whatever it is, right? So we always take the worst cases. People like Saboor who have gone through divorce, who are under no contact. And we have so many of these testimonials. And yet people ask, can you help me? Bro, what more do you want me to say? We got a guy right now who is in fucking prison for doing unspeakable crimes. His name is David. You can look at his interview. Before he went to prison, guess what he wanted to take with him? Not a fucking Bible. His notes from this fucking program. And people still ask, can you help me? I don't know what to tell you at this point. Anyway, uh, our marketing is our results. If you want to call that sleazy, if you want to call that marketing, then I don't know what the fuck to say to you. That's all.
Yeah.
So question for you, right? I was been curious about this because like
Yeah.
people always say, like, if your wife wants to leave you, then she doesn't deserve you, right? Or we get this people with having affairs a lot. Once people have an affair, sure, we can have a story that says like they're reconciled, but like everyone we have reconciled was an affair, they're still together. Thomas Ravelid, they're still together. John, all the Johns, they're still together. John's such a common name. Everyone, they're still together. We've never had anyone who has relapsed. Are you scared that your partner will leave, knowing that she has left once?
No.
Why?
No. It's a good question. And let me caveat this a little bit by saying I used to be afraid of that. I used to be. Because like, I the same reason, honestly, it was just like the same reasons that kind of got me divorced in the first place. But the reason I'm not scared is because she's the one that invited me home, first and foremost. I mean, come on. Like she's put herself through a lot of risk to bring me back home, and she told me, and the reason I'm not worried is just for the same reasons that, she's been testing me. I've been also being like, I'm kind of worried, like, I kind of tested things too. I had to surrender to that idea too, more or less. But we've have the biggest thing is that we have the perfect process to reestablish trust. You know, in the same ways in which I've provided so much safety to her, she knows my default is to provide safety for her no matter what. And so that's kind of inspired her to give me back the same and to help me work on myself a lot in ways that are super personal to me. She's helped me in things if I really think about it, and I'm perfectly honest, there are things that she cannot fake either. And like one thing was in my marriage, I used to be so worried about seeming imperfect or like having rough emotional days or like just sobbing and like feeling like a victim sometimes. And I used to be so scared, like, oh gosh, I can't appear weak in any way, shape, or form. I can't be vulnerable. I know we recently talked about a video about emotional vulnerability, and that one spoke to me because I used to worry, like, oh no, I can't share myself at all. And so one of those moments that made me realize that, like, yeah, same shit isn't gonna happen again, is when she more or less corroborated that, like, look, Saboor, it wasn't the fact that you're being emotionally vulnerable or you're just telling me how you feel that was a problem. It's that you fucking did nothing about it.
Yeah.
Now I see you're doing something about it. I see that this is just a one-time thing or whatever. It's not even like I'm bad. But more importantly, I can see your trajectory. Like, of course I'm gonna work with you. You make it fucking easy.
Yeah.
And she would just tell me these things. And I'm like, oh, and aside from her giving me that kind of validation, she really helped heal me at a certain core. That's not something she could fake. And it helped me trust her more. And so we, of course, have had so many conversations where we're slowly building higher and higher levels of trust over time. She's working with me. It's not just a me like, oh, I have to do like everything and everything to prove myself to her like 500 million times in a row. No, she's working with me. She's even told me she like loves and cares for me, and she's like, yeah, like we're healing the relationship together. I know there's gonna be dips, so on and so forth, but that's just part of it. It's getting better and better over time. I
But I
mean, heck,
mean, I don't know
go
if it's the
on.
same for you, but like for me, we talk about the 5 pillar relationship, and we want to make that a thing, like a 5 pillar
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the thing we want, right? And once you have a 5 pillar relationship, like I think about, would I? It's like the question. So people ask me sometimes is like, are you afraid of your partner ever leaving you? It's like, okay, let me ask myself then: am I ever afraid of me potentially leaving this relationship, this 5 pillar relationship? Zero fucking chance, right? It's to the point where right now, like, okay, so let me take a step back here, right? So we look at like basic human needs, like love and belonging, safety needs, esteem needs, like Maslow's needs, right? Self-actualization
Yeah.
needs, like you said. I get all that because I have safety, both safeties, admiration, alignment, sexual passion. I get all my human needs met. not only are they met, it's not just a pass fail. They're met to the highest that they can be met. It's to the point, Saboor. It's kind of funny, right? Because like
Yeah.
sometimes we meet new people and then uh we are left with this choice, unspoken choice of like, do I want to develop a relationship with this person, a friendship with this person, another couple, maybe whatever it is, right? I'm like, nah, because like to me, the friendship, the relationship that I have with my partner, she knows so many parts about me that I cannot even explain. I cannot even articulate to another person. And for me, the thought of like just explaining who I am with another person, it's just like, it's too much work. I don't want to do it. Right? Because this depth of relationship was created by so much safety, so many conversations, so many embarrassing, so many sensitive, so many vulnerable conversations we had together. It's even to the point, okay, like if someone asked me, would you want to have sex with someone else? I would say, fuck no. Because nobody understands how to pleasure me like my wife. Because we have so many conversations, so many moments where we can deeply understand each other like that. At that point in time, like, I'll be so fucking dumb to cheat on this relationship, to leave this relationship for something that is objectively gonna be worse. Like, why? You know what I mean? So my
Yeah.
whole thing is like that saying, right? Train someone so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so they won't want to. That's
Yeah.
it. We can leave, but why the fuck would we?
Yeah. And even that, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, the ironic part is, even with that, even theoretically, in the fraction of percent chance, she was like, Saboor, I want you to get the fuck out of here. Ironically, she can come to talk to me about all the problems beforehand before she even get to that point in the first place. So it's not even a concern. It's like, oh, Saboor, I don't like this. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's talk about it. Let's find a win-win together
Yeah,
using the frameworks, and then let's go from there. Okay, great, problem solved. Why am I going to turn my back on this again?
yeah.
When compared to everybody else that is out there, this is obviously the objectively best option.
So one interesting thing, right? So recently we've had a so just for people to see this in real life, what can happen if you have safety and admiration and so on. So recently I've been playing a lot more golf.
Yeah.
Obviously, Houston is fucking hot. So every time I
Yep.
play golf, I come home like drenched, like my whole shirt is wet. Everything smells. Okay. So she always made fun of the way I smell in a joking way, right? But then recently, I've been feeling like a lot more lazy or tired to have sex. So we got to talking, like, how come? And after I thought about it for a long time, I was like, Sam, like, I think the smell jokes has not been helping me because I feel self-conscious now. Like you're turned on in random moments. I'm like, oh wait, do I smell? Do I smell? I don't want to do it anymore. It's a very subconscious thing. And so then we got to talking about like, okay, what could be done? So I'm gonna sound really weird here, but like my partner now, like to show me like she's okay with my smell, she sometimes takes my underwear and sniffs in it in front of me, kind of thing. I love it, Jeff. And she like carries the underwear like a pet around the house, right? It's a fun thing, but like that's the kind of safety and admiration and just fun and alignment and passion that you could have. Think about how many people would not even be able to have that kind of conversation in a nice way, in a friendly way. Think about how many people would not even reflect deep enough as to the source of their shame, to listen to each other on next steps. Like, think about that, And that's just because they don't have a five-pillar relationship.
Right. And even alongside that, just for one of those pillars, like emotional safety and psychological safety, Cass gives it to me very frequently. So just like the other day, I've had a lot of abandonment issues growing up as a child. And so like, if you were to look up attachment styles, it might be like anxious attachment. I don't know what it is. I don't pay attention to that anymore. But basically, like space to me was a threat, more or less, because of all the interpretations I had about it growing up. But just, and it still sometimes affects me to this day, but I'm not like coming from a place of need anymore. But I was just asked like, hey, it'd be really nice. Like, I'm still dealing with my childhood shit. I'm still working through that and so on and so forth. So Cass, like, I'd really appreciate like when you're going to bed, just let me know, hey, like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed real quick. That's it. And then she just like does it. And I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. It's just super simple. But before, like, it I can ask her things and she'll just like do it. And if I say, hey, Cass, this kind of effect, I felt this way about X, Y, or Z sort of thing, like I felt a little bit hurt with how you said a certain thing towards me. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me like change my tone or something for you. Let me phrase it a different way. I'm like, wow, she's really, really trying. Like,
But I want to give a big, big, big caveat to people.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, let's make sure.
we're giving some examples of like us talking about, hey, I don't like it when this happens, and then our partner's going like, oh, let me listen, right? Our partner's listening is something you earn. Okay.
Yes.
If you are in a position right now where your wife wants to fucking leave, do not tell her, hey, it hurts me when you want to leave. Fuck, no, don't do that. Don't say
It's
that. Okay.
yeah,
Like, again, don't play the victim here. Okay. If you want your partner to listen to you, to be open to listening to you, you gotta create safety first. And that starts with you.
yes.
You gotta create that first. We can do this
Yes.
because we created that safety. But if you haven't created that safety, then learn to create that safety. And you don't create safety by making shit always about you. You create safety by understanding. It's almost like seek to understand first before you seek to be understood. Same thing here, right? If you haven't understood your partner, don't expect her to understand you. So, because we get a lot of people saying, sorry, I keep like
Go on.
adding more things. Because I get a lot of people saying like, well, when is it my turn to get my needs met, right? How come like, what if I feel like my partner's not meeting my needs or crossing my boundaries? Okay, you want to have that conversation? Fucking good. But before you do that, you got to seek to understand other people first, meet other people's needs first, so that other people want to meet your fucking needs.
Yes. Exactly. And you touched on my point about the difference between need versus want. These are things that I want from her. I don't need them from her. So if she says, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to like pull her over or whatever and be like, this is why you have to give this to me now. I'm not gonna do that shit. I'm gonna be like, okay, let me see if I can understand where she's coming from. If she's resisting me, let me see what is happening. Like I know my intentions, what they are. They're positive, they're beneficial for both of us. But if she doesn't see it in that way, let me figure out why. Maybe I am doing something wrong. And she knows that's my MO no matter what. Unconditional is that I'm always gonna be like, let me seek to understand you. Even if I need something, I'm gonna make sure that your cup is full too.
Mm,
Because I can source whatever I need from within.
mm.
It's fine. There's a big difference between needing and wanting. And for those of you that are watching this, especially if you're early in your journey, don't assume you're coming from the place of want just yet.
So I want to transition to the next point, which is like about like the question of how, because a lot of people they struggle to function. Like so many people they come to the program, right? And they're such an emotional, mental, spiritual fucking wreck that they cannot even do the program sometimes to get them out of that wreck. So a lot of people they don't have sleep, their health sucks. They're not getting sex, so they're all thinking out of their blue balls. How did you deal with all that shit?
Well, the, that's a really good point because I struggled with all of those. Maybe not the blue ball so much. Well, I had a porn addiction, so that didn't help. But but I think first of all, it was the recognition that I was crumbling massively, and just in that point in my life. It was the recognition, first of all, it was I need to recognize and accept that my way of operating was super, super fucked and it needed to change. But me getting through that um, was fortunately basically what the program had. But for me, the crux realization was I need to learn how to fill my own cup. And how I did that was just working through a lot of untethering and starting to source, as opposed to having my life defined by external outcomes that I couldn't really control. it was starting to focus on me starting to see my life and interpret things in a much, much healthier way. So as we kind of talk about with like the bulletproof vest. So like, for example, I couldn't sleep because I would be so worried and mired in like self-flagellation. Be like, oh my gosh, how could I do this? I'm such an asshole. I deserve to be punished, so on and so forth. Or I might play like victim mindset with like unique circumstances with like, oh my gosh, I'm being divorced and we're out of state and I can't do anything about it. I'm struggling, I'm struggling, I'm struggling, I'm struggling. And like going through this like 500 million times in my head. Or, oh, what if she's seeing somebody else and so on and so forth. You know, all those very common concerns. But as I felt my brain starting to just like fuck myself over, what was so beneficial was to have the reinterpretation process so that I could, no matter what was happening in my life, I could more or less just, I could thrive. Does that answer your question, Geoffrey?
It does. And I think I want to point out the subtle nuance of what Saboor is saying here. And I wanted for people to see the absurdity of the struggle a little bit, right? So let's go back to the fundamentals here. How come your partner wants to leave? Because she feels in a catch-22. Why does she feel in a catch-22? Because she doesn't feel safe to tell you the real problems, the tough problems, the stuff that's really in her mind. Why does she feel safe? Because she doesn't think you can deal with that shit. So, if you are saying right now, my wife wants to divorce and I am crumbling emotionally because of that, you just prove to yourself and to your wife why she should leave. Because you don't know how to deal with tough shit.
Yep. Spot
And
on.
right now we're saying like this is a program that will help you get out of this situation. Not only save your relationship, but save yourself. And you're saying, I cannot do that. You basically told your partner and yourself that you do not have the strength, the inner strength, the internal strength to do what needs to be done during tough moments. No wonder she never feels safe with you. No wonder she doesn't respect you. No wonder she cannot align with you.
Yeah. And that realization that you've just touched on was one of the reasons why I was like, look, no matter what's happening in my life, I need to fix me because I'm not able to handle these moments at all. And like my life is going kaplooey and things are getting worse in my life. And my way of operating just needs to change fundamentally. If I can't even get sleep, like it'd be like this, since I had moved in with my family, like Cass wasn't like, I hadn't heard from Cass and I'm being blocked. If we think about it objectively, I'm not getting any more input from her. And yet my system is stressing the fuck out over objectively nothing different. So wait, what? How does that make sense? If you really think about it, it's just thoughts in my head. Let's just zoom out. Thoughts in my head are so fucked that it's causing me to have issues with my sleep, it's causing issues with my health, and so on. Like I can't even function. Like, hello, that needs to change more than anything else before I can even consider having a relationship. Or getting back with Cass or anything like that.
But that's why
Before I
like
could even entertain that. Go on.
yeah, this is why untethering comes first in our program, or one of the first things that people learn is because like I think the hard thing that a lot of people have is it's almost like this, right? It's almost like the falling versus striving kind of paradox where you know untethering is a very falling thing. So for people who don't understand the terms here, so if you don't understand the terms, we have an internal shift series. Go watch that, okay? Because I'm tired of explaining the terms over and over again. Untethering basically is shifting your addiction, your dopamine processes away from looking at outcomes and circumstances, other people, into having intrinsic love for the process. And so the reason why you do the process is because you love the process, not to get an outcome. Okay, crucial. So for example, if you're a business person, right, it's you showing up to work every day because you love work, not because you want to get money. Okay. Because the problem is that if you're tethered, if you need to work without money, it's like, for example, for entrepreneurs, right? I need to work 5 years with no money to get the money. It's going to be very difficult for me to have the motivation to feel good about working for 5 years with no money if the only reason I'm doing this is for the money, but I need to enjoy what I'm doing. The same thing for relationships, right? If your intention to change, if your motivation to change is to get your partner back, you're tethered as fuck. And ironically, that's why you cannot sleep. That's why your health sucks. That's why you're so in a wreck, because this motivation is going away. Right? Untethering is when you learn to love to the thing itself intrinsically, and ironically, like we said earlier in this interview, right? That's when your changes become more believable too. Now, let's define falling versus striving. Some things in life are falling, some things in life are striving. Striving, think about lifting weights. The more willpower, the more weight you push. Falling, think of sleeping. That's what they call it, falling asleep. The more willpower you try to fall asleep, the less you can sleep. If you keep asking yourself, am I asleep? Am I asleep? Am I asleep? You will never fucking fall asleep. So the hard problem that a lot of people fall into is like they're in the cycle of they are tethered, so their divorce makes them in a wreck, and because they're in a wreck, they cannot fall asleep, and because they cannot fall asleep, they're more in a wreck, which makes them not fall asleep even more, which makes them more in a wreck, and so on and so on and so on and so on. It's just a fucking crazy cycle. And the process that we teach is the auto-suggestion process, like you said, which allows your brain to reprogram itself to fall into untetheredness, to learn to love the process intrinsically, so that when you're tired now, you go to the program. You don't go away, you go into the program. Definitions aside, I'll let you continue there on how you managed to.
So right, it was through the auto-suggestion process, and I made them so deeply personal to me that it was a new way of thinking that I really loved, and I still love, and I will operate and live by no matter what. And just to kind of touch in on the importance of untethering, I also got to realize that the way that I was starting to operate, the way that I was crumbling during the divorce process was, if I really honestly think about it, was a kind of what led to the destruction of my marriage in the first place. It always was there. It's just, it was in the back of my mind, but now it's just like when, shit's super, super difficult, super tough. And now all of a sudden, all those worst parts of me are now just coming the fuck out. And if I really look back, I kind of always did have trouble with sleep. I always did kind of have trouble with health in some way, shapes, or form. But now, when a situation's calling for it, I'm just much more aware of it. So that kind of galvanized me to basically deal with that shit. I needed to deal with it no matter what. And so that kind of brings me to another question that sometimes I remember I was being asked very early on in the program, and even by family members. They would ask me as well, like, hey, why don't you just like, if you're getting divorced, when are you going to start thinking about dating other people? And so, maybe I had like a passing thought about it, but at the end of the day, I was just like, wait, hold up. I got fucking issues. I have major issues. I'm not ready for a relationship yet. And even besides that aspect, I'm like, I haven't given my relationship its all yet. I haven't done that yet. I can't say that confidently yet, where I could be like, yeah, I can walk away. I'm like, nah, I'm fucking fucked up. I need to fix me first before I can even think about that. And so what I want to say is, if anybody's really entertaining thoughts about seeing somebody else or dating other people, like, you're this is way too soon, way too premature for you to even remotely think about it. I didn't even really think about it. I remember like in the program, I set a time box and I said like 18 months, but really in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, 18 months wouldn't be enough, to be completely honest. It was just cast or bust. That was it.
But I mean, that's a, like, let's look at philosophically too, right? Is, well, factually first. How many of our clients have you seen who ignored us when we told them that, to be like, don't look for other partners yet until you fix yourself? How many have you seen with actually thriving relationships now with someone else?
If they ignore the advice, zero.
How many have you seen recently in the recent times that you started working for the company? How many have you seen people saying, I did seek a new relationship, but that one broke down too. So now that's the reason why I'm back in the program.
Quite very frequently. That's the thing. I'm like,
And here's
well,
the
yeah, no
problem.
shit.
Like here's the problem, right? Like earlier we said, trust is built in the moments you cannot fake. And a lot of people will say during these moments, right? Oh, I can do the program and I can thrive, but this is too difficult for me right now. Well, that's fucking the point, professor, right? Like, the point is life will test you until you cannot fake it. Because the moment you cannot fake is when you really show your true selves. And so right now, if you're saying like, well, this is so tough right now to the point where I cannot fake the fact that I have insomnia, I have bad habits in sleep, I have bad mental habits, I play victim a lot, I'm very tethered. And because of that, is like, yeah, I cannot fake my untetheredness or my tetheredness anymore. That's the point, right? The point is like, you have been trying to fake your tetheredness or untetheredness for a very long time. And life will keep testing you until the moment where you cannot fake it anymore. And here's the moment you cannot fake and you're crumbling. And you cannot rescue yourself. This is going to tell your partner everything. You see what I mean? That's the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when I reflect back on my journey and kind of one of the reasons, we've talked about this, like about how I've kind of blown past my cohort, so to speak. Like, I think the one thing that I latched onto very quickly was just genuine acceptance of where I was at. I accepted that, I'm getting divorced regardless of what's happening. This isn't my near future. I need to change me. I have a lot of issues. I can try to deny it. I can lie about it to myself. I can try to escape the pain or whatever it is, the discomfort, but it's still going to be there. And me just trying to put a band-aid over it is just going to fuck me up no matter what. It's not going to lead
But
me anywhere good.
but it's also like going back to the topic, right, of new partners. It's like people
Yeah.
always say too, well, I think it's easy for me to start fresh with someone who I haven't damaged with not so much
Yeah.
baggage.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you say that with your existing partner?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you gotta say like, well, this is a fresh relationship and no baggage. But somehow you added fucking baggage to it and you weighed it down and it sunk. Did you
Yeah.
know why it sunk? Did you know how to unsink it? Because if you don't know why it sunk and how to unsink it, then you are in no control over whether you will sink or not sink that next one. Because
Yeah.
again, like a relationship doesn't rise or die in the easy moments. A relationship rises or dies in the hard moments. And so if you're thinking about a new relationship, you're thinking about the easy moments. But right now, right, you're presented with a hard moment. And the hard moment, you're choosing the wrong things. You're crumbling. So what makes you think you will not crumble in the new relationship's hard moments? Come on, man.
Yeah. That was pretty much my thinking. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. You need to fix me. That's basically all it was to
Yeah.
it. So it really did come down to that acceptance. And that I think is one of the sometimes critical pieces missing whenever people are going on this journey, is just that having that honesty with themselves. Because you can lie to people all you want, and sure, they can even buy it, but at the end of the day, who's going to pay the piper? It's going to be you, yourself. So,
Yeah.
the only person you're really fooling is yourself. And one thing I learned on very early on in the program was very much to have that critical self-honesty no matter what, because otherwise nothing's going to work.
And the self-honesty gets harder with time because, like, let's say in the first relationship, you're 25 and you got divorced at 30. Then you find a new relationship. Then you got divorced the second one at 35. Well, you being honest at 25 is much easier than you being honest at 35. Now imagine when you're 75. 75, nobody's going, oh, maybe something is wrong with me. I need to fix myself. Fuck that. At that point, you're an old dog. You cannot teach yourself new tricks anymore. You're not willing to teach yourself new tricks because you're like, I'm almost at the end. Why would I bother? So if you're not, so the thing is like, if you're not bothering now to learn this stuff now, just know that it's going to get harder and harder in the future, but things are not going to get better in the future too. You're just going to be a lot more stubborn. So just be careful of that. If you're stubborn now and you're giving yourself all these excuses to not do it now, it's not going to get easier in the future.
No. And it's again one of the reasons why I'm so grateful to Cass, because I've told her this flat out. I'm like, Cass, you gave me the kick that I needed to wake the fuck up. If it wasn't for you, my life would have been in a totally different trajectory, a
Yeah.
far more miserable trajectory, a more tragic trajectory that I wanted to desperately escape from growing up. And I've credited her for that. I'm like, no, like my only regret is that you didn't divorce me sooner, but I'm so glad that you did when you did. And thank you. Like I'm so grateful to her. And in so many ways I cannot possibly express. So yeah, I
And
mean
like
she's a great.
the sad part is like when people change their expectation of life, right? Like you see this a lot. Like recently in the recent video that I made, you saw some of the comments is like, "Gentlemen, let me tell you something. If you want a secret to a happy life, do not bother with women." Just what the fuck, right? It's like saying, if you want to be happy in life, do not have a relationship. The number one thing that can make you the happiest in life, just admit that you don't know how the fuck to lead a relationship. You break down every relationship. And so instead of like, what? That's crazy to me. Like just
Yeah,
admit you can't do it, bro.
I
Right?
mean, I don't know how that's supposed to get a woman to be attracted to you.
But it's the thing, like, I'm choosing to, I'm destining myself for a life of mediocrity because I am too afraid, or I've tried to achieve extraordinary a few times and I failed. And because I got burned, I'm choosing to destine myself for a life of mediocre. No relationships ever again. I'm like, sure, that won't get you to be miserable, but that sure as hell will that like I will not choose to live my life like that.
Yeah, to say the least. It's
Like,
just, I mean, I don't even have any words. Just like, yeah, that
yeah.
sounds fucking miserable at the end of the day. And let alone just like, I don't think anyone was gonna find that mentality attractive, just straight up. Like,
But that comment on that particular video had over 600 thumbs up.
wow.
That goes to show you, like, dude, it's funny because like those people, they're probably like Andrew Tate followers, you know? And imagine if you said that about your career. Let me tell you something. The secret to a happy life is to want nothing, is to not be ambitious. No Andrew Tate followers will ever fucking say that. But yet, you put it in another context, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally don't see the paradox and the irony or the contradiction here. Crazy, right? Trust me, guys, if you learn the right stuff, the right internal shifts and everything, I think you'd be surprised as to how much more happiness you can get from your life. Like, and one more thing I'll say, right? You know how people always say, like, I want to focus on my career first, then I want to focus on my relationship. Bull fucking shit. I can tell you for a fact, without Samantha, I would not have made it in my career like this. A relationship is supposed to be synergistic, supposed to help you launch pad. It's not a distraction. If it's a distraction, you're doing it fucking wrong. If it's making you miserable, you're doing it fucking wrong. You need to learn a different way.
Yeah. I, I echo that sentiment actually exactly because the reason for my career to this day is because of Cass. Straight up. And I've kind of made a joke, and I'll say this publicly, I don't mind. I've even told my folks who are like my family, I'm like, my ex-wife, she got me a job much better than anything you guys could get to me. So in terms of her being a team player, she's 100% the one.
Yeah.
She is so supportive of me. I'm astounded. And I'm just like, God damn, like when I was married, how did I neglect gold so fucking badly? So I'd share with her my appreciation to this day because she helps me so much in all these little subtle ways, and then she knows uh will really speak to my heart. Like she'll bring me a smoothie or whatnot. It's like a really delicious health smoothie, or when she'll like cook breakfast or be like, hey, let's go out, or I want to share this thing with you, and so on and so forth. I want to talk about these things with you. And like even just earlier today, and we were just like chilling and the cats were on her. Like it's just it's hard for me to describe just how much support she gives to me in every certain way. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like ideal as ideal gets. This is the stuff that I dreamed of having, but I just had such a shitty process with her for so long. And you know, like, I mean, that's just the truth. I'm like, damn, like I was really fucking lucky. And I'm lucky now. But it's just it's an extra level of appreciation I have for her now. That's so it's just the way to put it simply, the way I see things has changed my life so dramatically that I get to enjoy it 500 million times more. Because let's think about it. I'm back home in the same place that I was kicked out of 2+ years ago. But here I am in basically a very similar environment. And her and I are now going through similar challenges that she has with school. A lot of the same problems that we had, that we were facing over 2+ years ago. But our process now is so great that she like will actively ask me like, hey, Saboor, what do you think about this? I want to know your thoughts. I want your opinion about this. And she's like, yeah, no one else understands me just like you do. And I'm like, yeah, it's such a shame. If only
Yeah.
other people would know it.
Yeah. One last thing I want to talk about, and it kind of has to do with the last
Go ahead.
exact thing you said, right? It's like, um, I think a big part of changing is not just understanding conceptually the stuff that we teach you, the new mindset, stuff like that, but it's exposing yourself to a new norm of what standards are, to what relationships are supposed to feel like, to what
Yep.
a thriving state internally, but also in relationships, what it's supposed to feel like. And I think a big part of what makes this program so successful is the community. You know for a fact how much we control what happens in the community to make sure that everything happens in the community is
Yep.
positive, is according to the highest standards possible. And anyone playing at a lower standard, we will raise you up fast. We will grab you and we'll pick you up. We will raise you up, right? Fast. We will not tolerate losers, whining, complaining, gossiping, venting, none of that stuff. We only accept like, this is how we operate. We are a winning culture. We are a culture that if you want to brag, there's no such thing as bragging too much about your wins, about your processes. No such thing. How, like, what was that? What was the role of the community being surrounded by world-class players, including myself, Jason, at that point in time when you were a client, to other A+ players? What role did that play to changing who you are at the core?
That's a great question. The fundamental word I would use for it is just it gave me fucking awareness. We talk about antithetic filter in the first place, but like it brought up so much awareness and I was like, here's my way of operating and seeing how these people are operating. I'm like, hey, I don't know how the fuck they're doing that, but they're able to do this consistently. Let me like figure out how they're able to do it every day, day in and day out. I need to learn that because that seems the right way to go. That seems like it seems correct. And I had that recognition and it made me want to like strive for that approach, that process that these other members were having. I was just blown away. It's like, okay, like I read about this shit. I think it's like dream territory for people, but then it's just seeing the dozens of people who operate like this fucking consistently. I'm like, okay, I need in. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. And I think like personal stories of mine too, right? It's like, for example, uh, so I get this question a lot, right? Like sometimes I get like comments and stuff. What's your handicap in golf? My handicap is +4. People who don't know that, that means I shoot 3 to 4 under on average per round. Like, uh, and in the circles of golf that I play in, right, we play at a fucking high level. Like these kids who are 16, 17, 18, sometimes even like working people who are 35, 40, they don't make mistakes. Okay. Their bodies are programmed. And they approach this thing so objective, like so scientifically. For example, okay, give you 2 examples here. One of the techniques in golf right now that's hot is to learn how to read slopes better, so you know how the putts are going to curve. And one of the techniques is called aim point. Aim point is when you try to feel with your feet the degree of slope. So you feel with your feet like this is a 1 degree slope, a 2 degree slope, a 3 degree slope with your feet. And the way you calibrate your feet to that sensation is you get a digital level and you train your feet. Oh, that's a 1% slope. That's a 2% slope. That's a 3% slope. So In my circles, someone carrying a fucking level to a golf course is normal. In fact, if you're not carrying a level to the golf course, you're not serious. Another thing that people do, when they get golf balls, they will fill their bathtub with salt water. The salt has to be an exact salinity so that the ball will float in the middle of the tub, not on top, not sink to the bottom. And that will tell you where the center of the gravity of the ball is. They'll put a dot on the top, and they'll know that whether a ball has imperfections or not, they'll know. This is the level of obsession that people go into in my circles of golf. If you don't do that, you are not normal. So a lot of weekend golfers, they go to the golf course, they just show up and they don't even warm up, they don't practice. To us, that's abnormal. To them, what we do is abnormal. To us, what we do is normal. And I can do this for the program. To us, you doing auto-suggestions, untethering, getting rid of your victim mindset, communicating via frameworks is normal. If you're not doing that, that is not normal. To us, if you are spending 15 minutes a day in a non-thriving state, that is not normal. To us, you spending most, if not 24 hours of your waking day or all of your waking day in a thriving state, that is normal. For most people, what we go through is abnormal. But like Saboor said, that will change what you accept and what you don't. Because for me, if I want to be in that circle of golfers who are elite golfers, and I'm playing this tournament in a couple of days, it's like the best golfers are going to be there. And I qualified like fuck to get in there. You know that, Saboor. Right? If I want to stay in that circle, I cannot be tolerating doing something that is below normal, according to that norm. And whenever I'm finding myself operating below normal, I catch myself very fast and I go, come on, I can be better than that. Same thing, right? If you surround yourself with world-class players and you find yourself slipping, you will catch yourself fast and you'll say, that's not normal. Let's get back to normal. But if you don't surround yourself with the right people, and you surround yourself with people who they don't thrive, they are in a fragile state for 2, 3, 4 hours, tethered state for 2, 3, 4 hours a day, sometimes even days on end, weeks on end, and all your friends do that. And you are catching yourself slipping for 2, 3 hours a day, nothing's going to ring in your head to go, not normal, wake up. There's no fire. That's the importance of changing your norms by exposing yourself to a different class of people.
Oh, exactly. I mean, as I kind of said earlier too, when I was saying like, hey, Cassandra went through this moment where like her emotional safety's been broken thousands of times. Now I'm of the camp that shouldn't even happen fucking once. 0 times. That's my standard, not even once. Whereas previously, prior to the divorce, I was oblivious, to say the least. Now my standard is, no. I need to watch everything like a fucking hawk. Not in like an over paranoid way, but with the right principles. I need to guide myself to make sure, hey, like, let me not break safety.
Yeah.
Let me make sure to go through with that. So it's a very different polarization.
It's a different. So the best advice I can give someone, and we'll end on this note, is like, if you are finding a new community and you're failing right now, you're struggling right now, and you're finding a new community, and you don't feel embarrassed in that new community, you have found the wrong community. By definition, if you're failing right now, you must be doing so many things that are abnormal, that are subnormal, that if you join the right community, it should be fucking embarrassing to you. And that embarrassment should be a good thing to you. And so with this client, who is really difficult right now, he always complains, why is it tough love? Why do I get tough love? I cannot deal with this. Good. Because that means you found the right community. If you found the right community and they give you all peaches and rainbows and kisses on the cheeks, whatever it is, you have found the wrong community. By definition, it should be fucking embarrassing. Because for me, I always want to be the dumbest person in the room. I never want to be in a room if I'm the smartest person. Fuck that. I want to be embarrassed at all times because that pushes me to a new norm, to a new higher norm, to a new higher norm. And why do I do this? Because I have one life and I want to experience the upper echelon of that life. I have experienced poverty. I've experienced what it means to be like down in the dumps, to be normal, to be subnormal. I'm done with that shit. It's not nice down there. I want to know what's up there.
Totally agree with you. I have nothing more to add on that. So I know we've kind of gone for 2 hours, and truth be told, I could go on talking about this forever. So for anybody who's watching, if you are curious and you want to have like some more, if you guys have certain questions, please like ask me in the comments, and I'll just be upfront and tell you. And you know, I can make up some follow-ups, and I can give you guys like a third update if you guys like, or heck, you know, there can be all sorts of ideas that we can have as a community that I'd love to like participate and give you guys some value on. So just let me know. I'm right here.
So just to say it more explicitly, what Saboor is saying is, if we get a lot of good questions here, we might do a part 3, or we might even start doing regular, like even monthly or quarterly Q&A sessions with the coaches for those of you who are not in the program, just for it to give more value. But I mean, like if we don't get good questions, then like I'm not. There's no point. If we get the same like if we get the same questions like, what do I do if she doesn't contact me, and you haven't even watched my videos, then forget it. We're not gonna do that.
Right, right.
But anyway, if you want to explore the program that Sabor is in, we have a masterclass. It's about an hour and a half long. That will show you the brief overview of what the program, what you will get in the program. And if you're interested in applying, you can apply. We'll show you how to apply for the program at the end of the masterclass too, for a good 20 minutes. Pay attention, because again, we do have a quota that we enroll people in every single month, and we do also have a lot of people on the wait list. We say no to a lot of people, and so the people we say yes to are the people who we know have done their research on us, understand what they're applying for, and they show that they actually trust us. They're not like giving us attitude, stuff like that, right? They actually show like they can be coachable. It'll be a very nice client-coach relationship. If you think that's you, go to the masterclass, apply. We'd love to have you. Sabor, thanks for 2 hours. Hope that was helpful, guys, and we'll see you in the next interview.